All right. Yeah, you take over.
All right, guys. Happy Thursday. We are here for Chopper History, sponsored by Indian Motorcycles and Law Tigers. We are with Dave McGraw and his personal collection of some wicked cool bikes. And I hope you guys enjoy this show today. And if you have any questions or comments or anything, post on there and we'll try to get to as many as we can.
Yeah, it's gonna be tough to get to the comments because there's so much here to look at and there's so much cool stuff. We can try to talk about it after.
Yeah.
But
give them a circle around the room quick just so they can kind of get an idea of how much cool stuff. Come over this. All right, let's go over here. Let's see. Should we start with? How about this one that you were just telling us about, Dave? Come check out this one, Dave.
So this bike is 19 Harley. They call it the model CAC. It's made for speedway racing. It's 500cc alcohol because it has such high compression. And they say it's just one of the rarest Harleys there is. They only made 13 of them.
Wow, that's pretty cool.
This is pretty original condition. And so it was a closed circuit, pretty much a circular thing. Everybody asked what this is for. This is for your thigh to go under. You would lock your thigh and right foot. And then on your left foot, you wore a steel shoe. And you wore like a knee pad, like a hockey player would, and skid around. That's your balance when you would go around.
now, where has this bike been hiding all these years?
This bike, I actually was in Europe, and then Jeff Decker, the famous bronze artist, he had it. And he bought another car, like a Miller race car that he wanted to to restore and do a bronze of. So he decided he'd sell this. So this is one of the few bikes I've ever gotten. And this is just the way it is. I usually buy them in pieces and restore them, but this one's the way it is.
How many of these do you think are in existence now?
I know of about 7.
Oh, that many,
That many, yeah.
Yeah, I would think they wouldn't
The
be.
Wheels Through Time Museum has one with Harry Molinars, and I actually have another one I'm restoring right now.
Oh.
In a bunch of
Do
stuff.
you know who raced this one?
I don't. And this has funny numbers on it, and it was probably and then lived most of its life somewhere else, and then came back to the States.
That's cool. 13. That's pretty cool. That one of 13.
Yeah.
Okay, and then we can. This is just a couple of the K model.
Okay.
You want to give some history on these?
Right,
This is a 53,
this-
54.
This 54.
Yeah.
This is 54, and this is a very unique Harley in that this is like an enduro bike. So there's a military oil bath oil cleaner with this, and then it has out the cylinders here. A regular Harley. To average 25 miles an hour to a certain point, and then you got deducted if you were early or if you're late. And so this is your directions. They call the enduro clock, and but it turns backwards. Why?
Oh, wow.
Because of the way it drives.
That must have been hard to find.
Yeah. They raised the brakes on this, because they cut off this kickstand under it and raised the pedal and the brake shaft because it would drag in the woods. It has a skid plate, has magneto ignition, Whitco mag, and then the exhaust is this bike only too, high exhaust.
This is pretty neat. This is almost like what we use in the Cannonball.
Right.
This little map.
That's
thing.
that's
Show this over here, Dee.
but that's pre,
Yeah,
way back.
that's neat. That's tiny. That's got to be tough to read.
Get
See
that
this
speedo.
little-
The speedo
Speedo.
leads
Yeah.
backwards.
Goes backwards.
And then on the back of it, you'll see this sticker from where it ran. It's somewhere in Ohio, back when.
How about
And I just got a 56 sidecar for it to put my granddaughter in.
that'd be
Uh,
yeah, boy, that'd be fun.
Yeah, so she can't wait.
Oh, I
can't
bet.
wait.
That'd be so fun cruising around in a sidecar.
This piece of Harley art there, that is one of 15 made. There's one in the Smithsonian. It's a lithograph from 1929 or 30. And that's original, never been restored. It's
Wow.
one of the most reproduced pieces of Harley art there is.
That's
Wow.
in mint shape, like
Yeah.
the colors and everything. That is cool. Is
Yeah.
that on like a canvas? Like
It's on paper of some sort, but you can see where they were found in a motorcycle shop in New York. And they were in a manila envelope and they were all folded up, and you
Yeah.
can see the fold lines
Yeah,
on
I
it.
can see that.
Very
Yeah.
unique.
It is very cool.
And this is another race.
Yeah, KR.
KR.
So the KRs, they dominated Harley racing in the flat track from 1952 to 1969. And when they came out with the iron head, they call it XR 750. It was so temperamental that they some guys went back to this for the 70 season.
Yeah.
So this has 750 cc. It only has 5.5 to 1 compression. And so it runs all on valve overlap timing.
Yeah.
And so most flatheads rev to about 4,500 would be their maximum RPM. This starts to run at 4,500 RPM and will run to 7,000.
Wow.
And everything in the engine is ball bearing. The mains are on ball bearings, the transmission, the camshafts, everything's on ball bearings.
Huh.
And so they campaigned these same bikes from, like say, 52 to 69. In the corners, the 69 configuration. It has dual carburetors and as light as it could be made.
Oh yeah.
How about this one right here?
So this is
Boat tail.
71 Harley FX Super Glide, and this was Harley's first real true in-house custom bike. And this was, done by Willie G. And this one's unique because it's got 10,000 miles on it. It's never been painted, or it's had a battery and some tires put on it, I think, over the years. It's a 1 year only model for this bike. It's very rare. And kind of the Evel Knievel, red, white, and blue.
Yeah, which
That
is
was
cool.
his, that was his, the red, white, and blue.
How about this one?
This is
Sign.
called the XLR, which would be 55 cubic inch. So this wouldn't have been run flat track. This was only for a TT, which is a Tourist Trophy, which is like the beginning of motocross. So it's left and right turns with jumps. And that's why it's got brakes. But this is a 60 model, and it's got a aluminum rear fender, aluminum struts, aluminum top triple tree. Everything's been lightened, and I think it produces almost 70 horsepower. This bike, same thing. It's all on ball bearing, and these were, they were only raced on that kind of thing. So, and the limit back then was 750cc because they call it Class C racing.
Yeah.
Up until the 80s, when they started racing super bikes, they always contained it to 750cc.
But that's a 900.
That's a 900. So
Yeah.
we'd only race in a specialty.
Oh yeah.
This is a famous,
I was just trying
New
to read the
England
comment.
racer. This guy Frank Antonelli. So this KR.
Yeah.
So this bike raced at Watkins Glen, Laconia, Daytona. We got pictures of this bike when the guy raced it all the time.
This has got that big tank on it.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, is this tank specific?
Right, specific for this has got 6 quarts of oil, 5 gallons of gas.
That's a lot.
Yeah, a lot of gas.
Yeah.
This has big brakes. It has aluminum Harley's
Oh, yeah.
racing brake that kind of looks like a
Yeah.
conical Triumph. So the surface area for the brake shoes is a 1/2 inch wider than a stock bike, and then they put them on the rear too. So number 61, I said, was Frank Antonelli. So the black bike here that's probably one of my favorite stories. Is that I restored the other bike back there, and this bike I had in parts, and I decided to sell it to make another bike.
Yeah.
And so I told some people, and 2 weeks later, these 2 guys showed up to look at the bike, an older guy and younger guy. So I said, "Who's the bike for?" And he says, "Well," the older guy says, "Me." I said, "Well, how old are you?" And he goes, "I'm 65. I said, "What are you going to do with this bike?" He says, "I'm going to restore it and vintage race it." I said, "You're going to get on something that goes 100 miles an hour with no brakes at 65? And he says, "Well, I used to race." So he told me all his racing stories.
Yeah.
And then he asked me how much. I told him. He says, "I don't spend that much in my race career." I said, "Well, that's what it's worth today." And he said, "Well, I can't afford it. I'm retired." And so I said, "Well, you should really think about it." So in the end of the story, he says, before he was leaving, he said, "Mine was 58 KR 2021, which is the engine model and engine number."
Yeah.
And I knew that was the number on that bike.
So that was his?
So he leaves. I go in the box of parts. There's a loose leaf binder. I open it up. Letter from him complaining about this bike to the Harley factory. He lived at the same address.
No way.
So I called him up and I said, "That was your bike." And he says, "It can't be. My bikes were perfect." And I said, "Well, someone took it apart. What can I tell you?" And I said, "It's yours." And he says, "Well, I still can't afford it." And I said, "I found out who you are, and racing and motorcycles were your life." I said, "I have so many bikes, I'm going to give it to you." So I gave him the bike. I painted it. He did the motor, and he raced it until he was 80.
No
Really?
way.
Yeah, and had a stroke.
Wow, that is so cool.
He had a stroke and came back, didn't race it again, but rode it again. And then he had a brain bleed and he lost his vision. So he said, "Come get the bike." And I said, "Well, I don't want the bike. It's your bike." And he says, "Well, I can't have it. And I don't want my family to fight over it. And we've had such a good run with my
Boy,
son."
Dave, what a cool story.
So 6 months later, his wife called me and says, "You got to come get this bike. He's killing me." I said, reluctantly, I said, "But the minute he sees again, I'm bringing it back." And she said, "Okay." So I went up and had lunch with him and brought the bike home and put it in the basement here. And then she called me. He died that night.
No way.
Really?
She goes, "He was waiting for you to come get that bike."
Wow, he wanted
Wow.
to make sure it stayed
Yeah.
back with you. That
Well,
was cool.
a great, and he was a great guy.
Was he local Massachusetts?
Woburn,
Oh, okay.
No
Yeah.
kidding. What was his name?
Frank Antonelli.
Huh.
Good Italian.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Boy,
he
what a
raced,
cool
he
story.
raced with all these guys.
So he raced this one too?
This was his road racer, and that was his
Wow.
flat tracker.
That is cool.
He won a national on the black one in Canada, and they say he raced all over.
That's really neat.
If you listen to his plate, these were his friends that he raced with. These are all New England racers
Frank Antonelli.
that I all knew. Whitey Anderson, he rode for this guy Harold, and Whitey was an Indian racer and worked at the Indian factory.
Hmm.
Do you remember him?
No.
But he was a famous guy, and so Harold was kind of the mechanic and wrench for all these guys.
Yeah.
How do you say his last name?
Biagian.
Biagian. It's quite the name.
So he was strictly an Indian guy, but then when Indian went out, he went to work for a place called Arnold's
Rhode Island.
in Rhode Island, and he told me a story once that he was so mad at one of the Harley racers that he would sneak in at night because they would ship all the bikes from the factory
Yeah.
to Arnold's, and then they would drive them up to Laconia.
Oh,
So he would sneak in. He said he would change this one racer's bike. He just changed
Like
the
sprocket or something?
no, he changed the breather timing a couple of degrees so
Yeah.
he wouldn't have enough to
Get ahead
get
of him.
ahead of him.
no way. It's like sabotage.
Yeah, oh yeah.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
And he told me, they used to, cheat and,
I'm sure
They-
there was
they-
tons of that going
So,
on. It was
he
who could
actually
cheat the
had
best.
he had Harley flywheels in his Indian motor.
Huh.
Don't tell anyone that.
Yeah, don't tell anybody. So,
That's cool.
so,
These stories are cool. It's what makes
Yeah.
them even better.
Yeah. I guess these are non-Harleys, but
Oh
these
yeah,
are
let's
some
check
of
out
the
these
rarest
Crockett's.
American. These are the Crocker is they call it the holy grail of early American motorcycles. This bike, he started. He was Indian, and he built overhead valve conversions for Indian to start. Then he decided to build his own race bike. So they only made 21 of these, and this is a speedway bike. So this would have
Wow.
raced against
So this
the
was
Harley.
going in the circle again?
Circle, and that's for the
Yeah.
that's your thigh and everything.
Yeah, I was
there.
gonna say, so this has a bigger thigh,
Yep.
Bigger person.
Right, bigger person. So it was fit to whoever.
Now, where did you find that one, Dave?
I found this in Pennsylvania and chased this for quite a while, and it's one I've been looking for a long time, but there are very few out there. I
How
don't-
many of these did you say were made?
21.
Wow.
And
So
it's
they
the
made
same.
more Crockett's than the Harley?
Yeah,
Wow.
of that model.
Yeah.
Harley knew that they were outclassed, so they gave up.
Yeah.
They unfortunate.
Is that what a majority of these racers are they Crockett's or are they all different?
No, they were Crockers and mostly English bikes.
Huh.
They had Rudge, Excelsiors, Martins. That it was
Martins?
very.
I don't think I've ever heard of a Martin.
Yeah, it was very popular back in the day. They called J.A. Presswich. Jap
How?
Motors.
When did they make Martins?
Same 30s. Yeah.
Was a lot of
Right.
odd
Mhm.
motorcycle manufacturers then.
And then
Then
the Big
Big
Twin,
Crocker?
they only made 60 of these. Everyone was made custom to the owner's, owner's specifications. So they went from 61 cubic inch to 90 cubic inch. They would build this.
Wow.
Yeah, real big.
that's a big difference too.
So,
Were they expensive back in the day?
They
Like
were.
if you owned a Crocker, it was like
but he was so confident of his bike. He said, if any stock Harley or Indian beat you,
yeah.
that he would buy the bike back for full price.
Wow.
That was
Did that happen very often? You think?
No, this bike was so much better than the faster.
What happened to Crocker?
He
Bad businessman?
they sicked their lawyers on him and said patent infringement. Harley did,
No way.
and he gave up.
Wow, what a shame.
Mm.
What a shame to have a good
And
motorcycle.
he built them.
not
They were
been
built
very
in
nice.
California, and what's unique about this bike is that it's the transmission case is actually cast into the frame.
Really?
So
Wow.
it's very unique that way.
Yeah.
Under the engine, there is no frame. The motor is, they call it
Oh, like Haynes like?
Yeah.
plated.
Yeah.
So they plate the motor. The motor's an integral part of the frame
Oh,
to get it as low as possible.
so you
for
better
handling.
that, yeah.
So this handles like nothing else. The tanks are not sheet metal, they're cast aluminum.
Have you
Oh.
ridden this?
I have ridden this.
That's cool. That's neat. What year is this one?
This is 39.
39. Are these two one of your favorites?
They're two of my favorites.
Yeah.
Crocker was, he was so innovative in how he built his bikes and the
Did-
handling and everything.
Yeah, and to think
so-
back then.
So this is not modified. This is, it
exactly how
looks,
it was.
it's chopped. He made it look, bobbed or whatever you want to call
Yeah.
it, the figure back then.
That's really neat.
And these are all the road racers. These all two have a interesting, history.
Yeah, all these.
You see,
all
most
these
of my
road
bikes
races.
are restored. This one is original as race condition. This has the original race tires on it, everything.
That's cool.
The only thing that the motor was apart, so the motor was the motor's redone, fresh to go.
That's pretty neat to have it like in its original state.
That's the way everybody,
Yeah.
Today, no, this is worth twice what that's worth because it's original.
Yeah.
Everybody wants them original.
I see this has got one of those Imperial covers on it too.
Yeah.
What was this? This for his chin?
So that's when you would get up. This is for
Yeah.
Daytona.
Yeah.
So when you would get up on the bank,
Yeah.
Until the late 70s, you would bottom out. The G's would force you so hard into the bank,
Yeah.
and you couldn't hold your head up, so you would rest your chin.
Yeah, that's what I was
it,
thinking.
it would
Putting
push you into the thing.
Yeah.
Huh.
And the scalloping is for your arm comes down your knee. Here.
Oh, okay. I was
to get
thinking
this-
what this. Yeah, I
yeah.
guess if your arm's here.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
that's to get as close as you can.
Right. Yeah, I know. Like land speed racing, I
Right.
want to be as tucked and as
Right.
little as I possibly can be.
Now, is this an XR?
This is an Iron XR, and
Yeah.
they raced this for 2 years, and then they called it the Alloy XR.
Yep.
They had a lot of problems with them. They overheated. They sumped. They had oiling problems. But they only made, I think, 200
Really?
XRs. total.
Really?
Wow, that's it.
And they crushed a lot of them because something was happening at Harley. I forget exactly what happened then, but they, for inventory or something.
Yeah.
But they had to build a certain amount.
Wow.
This one's unique in that it was raced by a guy in the Cape.
Oh no way. That's cool.
His name was Raymond Murphy.
How long ago?
And this is a '64. So he
So
raced
it was-
in the '50s to the '60s. He had a little satellite Harley shop in Chatham,
Really?
and I found this in his chicken coop.
No
Okay.
way.
And there was so much chicken poop on it that you could take the tank. It was just unbelievable. The motor was out, it was apart, and he crashed a lot. But he was a big game hunter, so the only reason he sold me this because he wanted to go to Romania and shoot some bird.
Oh, he needed money to get
He
there.
needed money to get there. So this is the first year the racing that they used fairings.
Oh, really?
So they didn't call them fairings back then. They called them the cheaters. So cheat the wind.
Really?
So 64 is the first for
Huh.
the fairing. So this would be for the long courses, for Daytona,
Yeah.
Oakland, California, or Langhorne, Pennsylvania, where all the 200-mile courses.
Yeah.
Andy Vegas is watching and he said he knows Harold, great guy.
Yeah.
Must be
Harold Baez.
Yeah. Very cool. Mike Woodchuck wants to know, didn't they run one of those at the Isle of Man?
Yes.
Um,
This bike ran the Isle of Man. This is a 72 XR 750. And this bike is very special, and it's right because a lot of people don't know, but Harley built motorcycles in Italy from 1960 to 1978. And
Wow, for 18 years.
yeah, and they were called, Aramaki was the factory.
No way.
Yeah.
And they were actually an airplane factory, and Harley couldn't compete, so they bought this factory over there and built lightweight motorcycles.
Yeah.
So the factory sent this bike to Varese as a test for over there.
Huh.
This bike has numbers like none other, and there's a picture in the corner over there of the bike. The last time it raced, I call it in anger, was at the Isle of Man, and this is the configuration it was in
Really? So it's just
for an England.
Yeah. funny how
But
there's
this
so
is-
much
yeah.
stuff around here.
And after that, they blew it up at the next race, and the connecting rods came right to the cases, into the crankcases, and he had the cases repaired by Rolls Royce,
Really?
and he never put it back together. And then I put it back together.
And it came with Makuni's?
Came with Makuni's. So Harley, like the whole front end is Italian, and the instrument is English. Carburetors are Japanese. Shocks are English. The magneto is a Fairbanks Morse, kind of like off a tractor. So They
It's
did
quite the,
whatever.
conglomeration of
conglomeration, but to make it work.
Yeah.
So the brake on this is magnesium and it has shoes on both sides.
So what's this?
An air scoop to
Just-
cool it because
Did the brakes get so
drum
hot?
brakes fade very fast.
Yeah.
That's why they went to disc. So you'll notice it has a disc in the rear. That's the first of it. And those, they're called Hurst Earhart. And that was the first. They were on go-karts and airplanes.
Huh.
And everybody, these brakes got so good that they didn't like them in the end because they were so powerful. So it's got two shoes on the right, two on the left. And instead of just doing one action,
Yeah.
it's dual leading. So they,
Separate together. Like, yeah.
so you get the most. And then this box is called the splitter box. So the two cables come up and it has like an equalizer. So it was the most powerful.
How fast do
drum
you think
brake.
these bikes would go?
Oh, 160.
Wow.
Even
Boy, that's cool.
up on, but when you're on the bank,
Yeah.
you're bottom
Yeah.
and it's violent.
I bet.
Yeah.
I bet.
It's very hard to get on the bank.
Yeah. Get
and
up.
It's hard to get off the bank.
Yeah.
Right. You have to be going 100 to get up on the bank.
Mm.
Boy, that's fast.
Jeez.
That's fast in a circle.
So when you're coming, when you were coming down off the bank, you have to be on the gas, and the minute you're gonna go, you push hard on
Yeah,
the left and right on your right foot
Get it down.
to,
Get it,
to,
keep
to
it-
load the bike,
Yeah.
or it wants to spit you off.
Yeah, because I would imagine you got to kind of get that momentum
Mm.
too.
This is Harley's last road racing, except for for Superbike. So this is they call this the VR 1000.
You just got this one recently, didn't you?
A couple of years ago.
Yeah, I think you came by
Yeah.
the shop with it.
Right, and
You
this one
got it.
came from Shots up in Maine, George Schott. So they campaigned this bike from 95 to 2005.
Huh.
This is the last iteration, and so it's all magnesium and everything's high tech and carbon fiber. And Porsche actually designed the motor for Harley.
Hmm.
So,
Do you think they stopped because they weren't winning?
well, they weren't throwing enough money at it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You got to pick.
And Harley just, they're done
Yeah.
racing.
Literally.
Very sad.
Yeah, it is sad.
Mm.
But I hate to say it, but Indians dominating so much so the Hollies don't even have a chance.
I like to watch the races and you'll see the Indian guys are all sitting around, in their loungers, right?
Waiting,
And
yeah.
the Harley guys are all running around like
Scrambling.
a bunch of bees, right? They fly up, then they just couldn't compete.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, they
Just
just
can't
dominate.
compete. Yeah. This bike is, this was Harley's idea. It was a specialty bike, kind of was, I guess they call it a street tracker. It was supposed to look like the Harley dirt bike of the day, XR 750. And the unique part about this bike, this was given to Jay Springsteen. He was he raced for Harley for 32 years, XR 750s his whole career, and he got this bike as a gift from the factory for winning a Grand National.
That's cool.
It was signed by Willie
Yeah,
G
I see
and
that.
his wife.
Yeah, that's cool. Showing the signature.
And if you see this, do you see it? The speedometer, it's got 666 miles on it.
That's it.
And the significance for that for me is that he rode an XR 750 road racer that was called Lucifer's Hammer.
Huh.
So that's why I keep the 666 on
Yeah.
it, right?
Yeah.
That is a unique bike, and this is an Italian Harley, and it's the last one they brought into the country. It's a 250cc road racer, produces I think 59 horsepower,
Mm.
and they only brought 3 of them into the country, and I've got 2 of them, and the factory has the other one.
Oh, no
Wow,
kidding.
that's
Right.
cool.
So
Wow.
this one I've redone the motor. I'm ready to put the motor back. I'm leaving original.
Yeah, I was
And
just gonna say.
If you see there's the paint job for going to be the restored one.
This one's neat, like that it's kind of beat up, like you can slightly see the
See, everybody
numbers,
wants it like that.
Yeah.
The other one is so rough, though. I had to.
This was one of the crown jewels of your collection right here.
Right. This was this really changed Harley. This is 1936 Harley. They call the Knucklehead, and this was innovative for Harley. It was their first true overhead valve engine, V-twin. It's the first year Harley recirculated oil. So up until 1936, Harley had what they call the total oil loss system. So the oil, you would add the oil, it would burn it,
Or
puke
spit
it on the
out.
chains, and and you had to replenish. So probably every 3 or 4 tanks of gas, you had to put more oil in. So this is the first time they recirculated. They call it dry sump. In the first year, they changed the oil design of the oil tank 3 times. They changed this timing cover 3 times, and they changed the frame after this because it was too weak and it cracked. And they made 1,800. This is the 168th or 9th one made. I forget. And this is original color for back then. They call it Nile green and maroon.
It is a cool color.
It's a real Art Deco.
Now, is this? I know there was early '36 and a late '36.
This is the early.
That's the early '36.
So it's because of these knuckles. They have the. They're not.
Yeah,
That's the
not-
early
not-
ones.
not the nuts,
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Yeah. Tom taught me that.
And the air cleaner is 1 year, for 36. Kind of the
Yeah.
streamlined air cleaner.
Yeah. They only.
And this is the first year of 4-speed transmission.
Oh, okay. I
for
didn't know
Harley.
that.
36 was the first year of 4-speed. And this is the first where they actually integrated the dash. They made a dash on it. That's the first year of that. 36 is to its own because next year they had a trip odometer. 36
Huh,
is the only
so
one
this
that
just
did
has
not
a-
have a trip odometer.
Mm.
And it's super-
Now, where did this bike come from?
This came from North Carolina, and Myron actually
Found it?
restored this bike.
Oh, Myron restored it.
Mhm.
Yeah, beautiful job. Jeez. And then don't Scott Jacobs. That's the
Yeah.
original.
That's the original painting of this bike by world-renowned artist Scott Jacobs. He had to paint that locomotive. He never painted a locomotive, and he told me he had to. They call plainiers, I guess painters are called small painting. So he had to paint 4 locomotives. Try it 4 times before he was happy.
He did a good job.
Put the detail and stuff.
Yeah.
If you really look at the painting, it's so beautiful.
Oh yeah.
The reflection, he's the master.
Yeah. He
Yeah.
does an unbelievable job.
This is hard. Massachusetts was the first state in the country to register cars and motorcycles.
Really?
Oh, really?
1903.
Wow.
Huh.
So.
Do you have a 1903?
I do. I have it over. It's on the wall over there. So the first one.
Oh, yeah, I
was,
do.
They call Z plate. So that was 1903. It's from 3 to 9. They just painted the number on the plate or on the bike or a piece of leather.
Yeah.
Then in 9, they came out with those little
Coin
bronze
things. Like?
fobs, they called them.
Yeah.
So you would hang it off. And then after that, they went back to the porcelain plate. Then they just had these plates were painted just on sheet metal.
Oh, yeah.
And then the first
Like
stamp
stamped.
plate was 1920.
Boy, that's cool.
And the only plates I'm missing are 33 and 4.
Oh, you got multiple 28s.
Mhm.
Is that the same plate? Oh, yeah, it is. Same plate.
So 28, depression, you couldn't find them. And then when they got to the war era, 42, 43 was a 42 painted blue, no 44 or 5, then 46. And then when they got to 50, they started skipping years.
So there was no plate in 43?
44
and
or 5.
40 Oh, wow.
44 and 5.
So there's no such thing as a
No,
44
no,
or 45
no.
plate. Wow. Why did they skip it? Because of the war?
War. Yeah. And then they started, skipping plates.
Yeah.
How about this little scat? This little Hummer.
That's they call it a Ranger, which was a 1 year only. And this came from a forest ranger at Yellowstone.
Oh,
And
that's
he
cool.
used this. It had an elaborate kind of a hitch on the back, and he used it to tow his elk when he shot him, to drag it back to the.
Wow.
Jeez.
You wouldn't
So-
think this thing would have enough power.
It's a 165, but see how
Yeah.
it geared down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that
It's
is
a
stock.
huge sprocket.
So the pipe in this model was a 1 year only. And these are the original tires that were on it when I got it.
Wow.
Wow. Yeah.
It's very rare. So I ride this at the swap meets.
Do you?
Mhm. And this whole line up here, these are all Italian Harleys. These two are 78s. This is the last year they brought these in. And what's unique about these is these are they call them 360s. So hard that no one had these. Only the factory guy got to experiment with the 360 in motocross. These came from a guy that was one of the reorganizational guys at Harley, from AMF, and he held up they gave him the job of running the Aeromock, the Italian part.
Mm-hmm.
So 78 was last year. So they were deciding whether they were going to build a real all-out enduro bike. So this is a motocross bike made into an enduro bike. One off. They tested, but never made it. Factory don't have this bike.
Yeah, that's cool. That must
Factory
be.
don't have this bike.
They must be. Have they asked you? Like, do they want these?
I'm sure they.
Yeah.
want it, But you can see it's got the same thing with the root sheet. Look on, you can see the root sheet.
Oh, the little spinning thing. Oh yeah.
What's the purpose of this, Dave?
Those are they're called brush guards. So when you were in the woods going in between the trees,
Oh my God.
if you hit a tree, it would not take your hand out.
Right.
Yeah, the branches.
And the branches.
Yeah.
And you had to, when you enduroed, you had to register the bike. I think it was quasi legal, just so you could go down the road a little bit. And they'd send you to the next thing.
Very cool.
But they would stop you, and they have they call it the international 6-day trials that they do in Europe. And so they'll stop you, and if your headlight doesn't work or something doesn't work, you have to have it all working before. And if you can't change a tire in 4 minutes, you can't be competitive.
Wow.
4
4
minutes, Joey.
minutes. No. Oh man, I would be out.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool. So these two, is this bike the only one in existence?
That I know,
That's cool.
this has, it just has the serial number. It just has the machining of the case numbers, it was never stamped.
I was just gonna say that. So they never gave it an
This
actual
is-
VIN.
This is number 5,
Wow.
0005.
What year was this one?
78. These are both
78.
78s. And so this is what the other one they made. This was the 250. They were trying to motocross back then, so they made it 2 years, 77 and 78,
That's cool.
Yeah.
I didn't know they made like a motocross
mhm.
bike.
all out.
Were they competitive at all?
They had one of the best motors, but they didn't handle.
Huh.
So the Can-Am was the second fastest, or the two of those were the fastest, but they had the chassis design wasn't
Yeah.
what the guys wanted. This is
Well, that's odd.
this
What
is a
is
flat track or a short track they call it.
That's-
so about quarter mile usually, quarter to half mile, and then so this is a 4-stroke 250cc engine that revs about 9,000 RPM.
and these are all Italian,
These are all
right?
the time.
So this is the Italian
This
section.
is like the scramble. They called Scrambler of it, 1966. And then
Boy, you have so much knowledge
the
on all
next one
this.
is 350cc. This is one I raced for quite a few years, and I went to a track day at Loudon, and I was just cooling the bike off coming down the straight, and the connecting rod broke and came through the case
Oh,
and got me in the back of the leg,
oh,
man.
right through my leathers. So
Mm.
when I got home, my wife said, "How'd you do today?" I said, "Oh, I got a trophy." She goes, "Let me see it."
let me see
I
your
pulled-
leg.
I pulled my
Yeah.
pants down. She goes, "That's not very attractive." And then I raced it up when they had their
Like a vintage day.
vintage day with the old, the real Laconia was at Gunstock Mountain.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
That's where the original Laconia ran.
Yeah.
And so the course is still actually, the original course is still there.
Huh.
So where you see the hill climb on the bottom, that was the start. Then you go up the hill, and I made it to the first corner, and some guy ran into me. So after I crashed it one other time, so that's it. I'm gonna restore it, and put it back.
I was just thinking, where's the clock? Because this is this little one right here. Makes a lot of noise for a little clock.
I had Elvis.
Oh, Elvis left the building.
So I say this is my latest. Just finished this bike, 1959, and raced by a New England racer named Sid Swan. And he was such a
Sid.
good racer. He never owned his own bikes. He raced everybody else's bike.
I like that motto.
And this guy,
Yeah.
this bike, he won at Watkins Glen on this bike.
Yeah, Sid used to work for Atwood, right?
Yep, Cyclecraft.
Yeah.
And racing green is taboo.
Yeah, bad luck.
Right, bad
Yeah, I wouldn't race
So
a
he
green
did it-
bike.
He did it just to mess with him.
Yeah, prove him wrong.
Yep.
That's kind of
He
ballsy.
says he'd come right up next to him and like,
Yeah. Hey guys,
hey guys.
here I am on my green bike.
This panhead's pretty interesting.
So the Panhead is 1950, and they called this a Panhead TT. So this would have been early, TT bike. So it's left and right turns with jumps. So what's unique about the bike is that you'll notice it has no conventional oil bag. So they've made the right tank is the oil bag.
Mm-hmm.
Would originally be battery ignition. Now it's magneto ignition. And so this cover is to time it, and it's run off a chain in the timing case, believe it or not, with gears, and you would time it there.
Huh.
The transmission is raised an inch and a half, because when you would go to the left, the primary would always drag on the ground.
Right. Okay.
So they get that up there.
No pun
and then
intended.
to get some more ground clearance, they call it, it looks like a regular Harley Springer front end, but it's an XA, which was the military. So
Right.
It's actually 2.5 inches longer than the stock Harley front end.
Looks like there's more rake in the frame too.
Could be. This was the way, this is.
Wow,
and,
that
and you didn't buy, Harley didn't sell this as a bike. You got the kit, you got the tanks, you got the mag, and then the gearing, they changed the gearing. See how they bolt a sprocket on top of the
Right,
sprocket
see
to get the gearing.
Oh yeah. So wait, there was another bike that had this too, wasn't there?
But you have to be a man to ride this bike. I mean, this is a lot of power, and
What do you mean by that, Dave?
you gotta have a lot of strength, Joe. You could ride it, but there's a lot of, when I rode this bike, I couldn't believe that they would race this thing.
Really?
That's a
That's
handful.
cool. How much horsepower do you think this has? I mean, I guess they probably don't have a lot
I don't
back
think-
then, but it's
no.
just a beast of a bike.
that
That's a
mag setup is quite the setup. I've
Yeah.
never seen anything like that before.
And
on a
inside,
panhead.
Dave, is a gears, with
Yeah.
two chain.
Yeah.
So it runs off the,
Boy, that's pretty wild.
so off the idler gear.
Yeah.
They made the idler gear with a chain on, sprocket. These are 40s. They're called WRs. So Harley raced those from the late 30s until
50, right?
51.
Yeah, I was gonna say 51 is the WR that I ride in the Sons of
That's
Speed.
the last, right?
Yeah.
So this is the flat track bike, and this is a 49 So same thing.
These WRs can be fast.
This
Yeah.
bike goes. And
Yeah.
So this is Harley's first chromoly frame. So the
Oh.
tubing is chromoly instead of being regular steel. Super light.
Dave, all these bikes are so clean.
Yeah,
If I didn't know you, I wouldn't believe you that you ride them.
they run. 40 years of doing it.
Yeah.
So I painted these two absolutely opposite. So that's they call it the TT bike. This one, that's 48. And so that uses a standard frame because it's it was too much stress on this frame would just crack. So you'll notice this has 6 quarts of oil. That's a cast aluminum tank.
That was a big oil
Right.
tank.
And then the
Gas
gas,
tank is cast aluminum.
the oil.
Oil.
And then
Look how big it is.
the gas tanks are 5 gallon, which is very big for back then. And same. And then the other difference with this bike is that the 5 gallons of gas and the primary, instead of having the regular 45 primary, it uses a big twin chain because it would stress and stress out.
Yeah.
So they used a big. So this would be only for Daytona, Langhorne, Pennsylvania, and Oakland, California. Those were the 200-mile races. That's the only
Only
configuration.
200 miles.
But this
on
is quite the little windshield deal,
Yeah.
huh?
That was an aftermarket back then that someone made. So
Yeah.
Who's Walter Curio wants to know whose bike was number 24. I have a TT bike with that number.
24. Oh, it was Dick Carey. He ran out of Rhode Island, and he rode for Harold Bayagian.
Oh, the guy over there.
Yeah, he rode
Yeah.
for him. Dick Carey. Yep.
Dick Carey. There you go, Walter.
I think he was from Greenwich, Rhode Island.
Mhm.
This is the first of, I'll call it Class C racing. So this is 1936. They call it RLDR. So they only made them 2 years. And so the cylinders are different. The intake ports are bigger. This is what Benny Campignell and Babe Tancred rode to Daytona wins. This kind of bike back in the day.
So these 45s did from 36 up, did they have a total loss oil system, or did they change too?
Total loss.
So all 45s? Yeah, because the VL that I rode was a 36 and then 37 turned
Very
into the
leaky.
U. Exactly. That's what Rat told me that.
That's what
He said, yeah,
VL.
they
Very
don't
leaky.
call it very leaky for
So-
nothing. You just wait.
Class C racing started out. You were supposed to come to the track, take your headlight off, and race, and
Yeah.
then put your stuff back on and go
And ride
home.
home.
So of course that's not people didn't. That.
Yeah.
And so the real start of real racing. I mean, 45 racing motors. So then after this, they put ball bearings and magnetos and stuff. But they only made this. This is the start of it.
Is this one like the
That's that same.
One.
This is Harley's. They call it the CAC, but this is in. They call it a Rudge chassis, which is an English chassis, and they did this because that was so flexible. You'll see it's got a big bar on the other side. It would split the chain. So a lot of the other guys preferred these frames, so they put the Harley in. This was Lucky Tebow's.
Oh, really?
no
That's
kidding.
cool. That's really cool. For those of you that don't know, like, and actually, world legend.
World
right?
legend.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wrote the wall
Wow.
of that.
At one point, he had over 3.
What a shame. That's.
Mm.
I wonder. Do you know? Do they
Well,
just
that guy,
scattered,
Ted
rotted
Pratt,
into
got
the
him up
ground?
there. They just over. show you where it was. Ted showed me.
Yeah, I know where it was.
Right.
Did he race this?
I think he did. There was another friend in West Bridgewater that I got some bikes from. I got this bike from him.
The Jay?
His name was Loring Hall, and
Oh.
they raced together
I
back
think you
then.
told me
Remember
about
Mr. Hall?
Lauren.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so they raced
Yeah.
together back in the day, and he was one of the first tumbleweeds.
Okay.
Lucky was a tumbleweed.
Yeah.
And in the tumbleweeds, and so this bike is they call it the Toucan, and
This is a 28, right?
28,
Yeah.
and this was Harley's racing engine detuned and put in a street bike, and they did it for 2 years, 28 and 29.
Yeah.
So
So those are the only
this was the
JDHs?
fastest production bike in its day.
Really? I
So-
didn't know that.
Right from the dealer, it would go 85.
Wow, that must have been flying
That-
back then.
you could not sustain it, and then with some tuning, you could make it hit 100.
Wow.
And
I know on the Cannonball there was a couple guys riding JDHs, and I was so jealous because they would just fly by me
yeah.
like I was just at a standstill.
so-
They would get to the destination an hour and a half before
Right.
everybody.
Didn't John
Newman.
Newman have
Right.
it?
Yeah.
And so this is Harley's first year. Harley painted the first bike was black. The second bikes were all gray, like the ones down there. They call them silent fellows. Then they went to olive, and they painted them olive green until 28, with the exception of 1 year they painted it Brewster green. So 28 was the first year of optional colors.
Oh, like my blue.
The blue.
Yeah.
So
I
they
didn't
made
know that.
they
That's
made
good.
this. They made the maroon. They made police blue. They made azure blue, gray, and orange. I
Yeah,
believe.
yours is azure blue, right?
Yeah, so when I was kind of deciding on the
Mhm.
color, it was either going to be this maroon
Right.
or the blue, and I figured the blue was so bright
Right.
and it looked not traditional.
Right.
Like you wouldn't think they had that color
Right.
back then.
So this, and I have when I got the bike, it was totally apart. But in the toolbox, it was in a box of stuff, and I shook it. I could hear something in there, so I put the weasel juice, I call it, to it, and I soaked it for 2 weeks upside down, just in that little lock, and then I used the jeweler's torch,
Yeah.
and I got it open, and the registration from when he bought the bike from the owner in Connecticut, it's got their ticket plate on it when he got it, 1939, and the registration was in there,
Yeah.
and it said maroon right on it.
So
Wow.
that
You
you
know the
had,
bike was-
yeah.
So it had the renewal for
Boy,
the plate
that's cool.
registration. I have it all.
Wow.
And the plate was Swiss cheese, but I saved it. And so the funny part about this bike is that when I got it from him, it was in pieces, and the bike was scattered from every room in the house to his barn. So
Oh,
it was
wow.
9 months to get
All the pieces.
most of the pieces.
Yeah.
So when I got the bike almost done, the cylinders are a 1 year only cylinder for this bike.
For the JDHs?
For the J, well,
Or
for the,
for
no,
JDs?
for the JDs and
Yeah.
the
Oh, I
28s,
didn't know that.
28s to its own,
Okay.
29, So they were mismatched. I was looking for him. He said, "You ever going to finish that bike?" I said, "When I find the cylinders, I'm not putting it together without the cylinders, the correct cylinders." I said, "The rest of it's."
Yeah.
And so another month goes by, and we're up there, and he says, "Hold on a second." And so we're in his living room, and he comes in holding these 2 cylinders like babies in his arm. I go, "What are those?" He goes, "Oh, those are the cylinders to your bike." I go,
Now you give them to me.
8 years later, I said, "How come how much those going to cost me?" And he says, "Oh no," he goes, "You can have them." I said, "Why now?" And he says, "Well, I want to hear the bike run before I die." And so I said, "Okay." And I said, "Well, how come you didn't give them to me back then?" And if you look on the front of this bike, right here, these little dampers, those were for racing bikes only.
Oh,
back in
yeah.
the day.
So,
But when I got the bike from him, and so he asked you for those back. And I said, "No, you didn't. You never asked me." I said, "I would remember because they don't belong on the bike. The only reason I put them back on the bike is because I got them. They were on it when I got from you."
right.
I said, you might ask Walter, but you never asked me.
So he held out the cylinders because he wanted those
And
back.
I said, well, I'll give them back to you. And he goes, well, what am I going to do with them now? He goes, leave them on the bike. So when I finished the bike, I brought it up to his house and I started it up and he started to cry. And I was like, he was so emotional about it. I said, he says, that's the first time that thing's made a noise since 1939.
Oh my god.
Oh, he took it apart in
70
'39.
years?
He burnt the valve on it and he took it apart.
Wow.
And I said, why'd you
Wow.
take it apart? He says, because it was such a good bike. He goes, I knew I'd chop it up and make a hot rod out of it. So I left it. And then he just never put it back together.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
So he called his wife out,
Yeah.
June. He married her when she was 17. 2 days after she turned 17, he brought her back from
So
Nova
young.
Scotia and married her.
Oh.
They were married
Still together.
70 something years.
Aw.
And so he brought her out and he says, June, look what a beautiful job Davey did with the bike. And she goes, I've been telling you for 50 years, I could give a rat's ass about motorcycles. And she goes, I think you're hurting the boy's feelings. He goes, he's got thick skin. He's fine. She goes, lunch is ready. Get inside. He was quite the character.
Well, it's another JDH, huh?
That is, this is called an FH. This is the actual competition motor. This was only the factory guys would have gotten this bike.
Huh.
So this has a very special frame. You'll see it has a third
Yeah.
bar. They call
Yeah.
it a three. And so this was for hill climbing only. And this is same. Very high compression, alcohol burning bike. And this one was mostly together. And then I found the rest, found all the other bits for it. But this runs fine. So 15 minutes, put gas oil and it'll fire right up.
Really?
I used to fire it up in the house and then I was told that if I did it again, I would be sleeping outside. So
Your wife would be
I
like,
don't
like
start
that.
them up inside
Like
anymore.
June,
Right, yeah.
Time you
yeah.
get in the house.
No
lunch
more
is
starting
ready.
them up inside.
Hmm.
So, but see, that's the way everybody wants it. not-
Yeah, that's
not-
cool.
yeah.
Yeah, but this is cool too because it is.
This is the way I
the way,
like them.
yeah, and this is the way it was.
Right. The only thing that's changed on this is they only used the gold stripe on the tank and the battery box when it was new.
Yeah.
But
So,
I couldn't stand it. It looks so not
and do you
finished.
have this stripe on the blue one too?
Yeah.
Because I noticed that because I know in the book, Bob let me borrow a book.
just
that
on the tank.
Yeah, and I
Yeah.
thought, oh, good, I only have to do it on my tank.
So, and then
Yeah, I'm still missing.
Do you have a
bunch.
primary, Jody?
I have. Yeah, it's pretty beat up. It's pretty. Bob keeps telling me to look for another one. Yeah. And then,
oh, that is
That is so
this
cool.
is called Pea Shooter. Harley's nickname, single cylinder. This is a board track racer, and back in the 20s, they took 2x4s and turned them on the thing, and they call it was like a bicycle velodrome, so it was a very high bank. So this bike has no gears, no clutch, to drive, and no brakes.
so this is the same idea as the Sons of Speed.
Right.
Because the Sons of Speed races, it's no gears.
So this
brakes.
is 350 cc, and this bike will go 80 miles an hour.
Wow.
Wow.
I mean, I can't. They supposedly they've,
Alcohol burning.
they've clocked me on the like it was 4. Yeah, which is pretty fast on an old freaking. Yeah, I don't have any brakes.
And people don't like this. This is one of my earliest. Dave, remember Nancy Brooks?
Yeah.
Painted
Oh,
this
okay.
eagle
Yeah.
on for me, and I liked it because it was Art Deco, and I do the bikes for myself.
Yeah.
Not for And I
Not to
said
please everybody
I
else.
said it's a set of blue jeans. You can change it.
So the purists didn't like
Oh,
it.
they hate that. See this bike. This is one of the other rarest bikes in the collection. This is they call this the DAH.
Is that a hill climber?
This was a hill climber. They made 20. Of these. This was the prototype engine. This is Harley for the not
Oh, yeah.
They call this a leading link front end.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is pretty combination
Yeah.
of things.
So this, led to the, and Harley was, wanted to beat Indian.
Yeah.
So they,
Nice try. 80 years later, they still aren't beating them.
well, the Harley Indian Wars, all
Yeah.
those years, right? So that's what these very unique.
Go.
That's it.
Oh,
And
really?
You would floor it, and you would engage the clutch wide open.
Yeah.
And you would never, when the hill climbs, you never let out of the throttle because it would never recover.
I was just going to ask you
You can't. You would hit the kill
To-
button.
that's exactly that's what your speed
Right.
is. You're better off hitting the kill switch for a
Just- yeah.
second, letting it back up and
Right.
starting back up again,
Because
then
it
hitting the
won't
brakes.
recover.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
what it
because
is.
we don't have enough in the straight enough
Mm.
to get back up to speed.
So they didn't have knob tires back then.
Is that no-
Racer, I said no. That's for. So they modified car chains.
Walter Curio says I have Lucky's Wall of Death short frame Indian.
Oh, yeah. Wow.
It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
I think Walter's got a collection.
I would say so. If he's got one of
You know, Walter?
Yeah.
Yeah.
one of Lucky's bikes.
That's what I call the place. Harley Heaven.
It is.
Greg made that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
That poster right there,
Yeah.
that's that bike.
Oh, really? That's cool.
That bike has a good story too. That this bike was found in a junkyard in LA. And the guy that had the bike was hiding it from his wife. I think he was getting divorced. And it was in the trunk of 2 cars in a junkyard.
No way.
And this
On the
guy-
verge of being
yeah, this
crushed.
guy, R.L. Jones from South Carolina, he found it out there.
Wow. Geez, that's got 4 exhaust pipes, huh?
Yeah. Dual port, yeah.
Hmm.
Not dual, not 4 valve.
Right,
But
right.
just 4 exhaust ports. But that was him and Wendy. They made, this is the third one out of the 20.
It's a cool picture too.
That's a bike I'm working on. Actually, it's in the process now.
Oh, really?
So that was, they called it a home brew. So they used this 2-cam bottom end, and they cut the timing chest off, and because that has 2 cams, and they used a 45 cam chest. It's 4 valve,
Yeah.
4 cams, so they could change the timing. And then instead of this top end, they used the pea shooter. Wearing a tie.
Oh, is
Yeah.
yeah, with his
He
car,
has
see it
a
under his
clinched,
car.
cigar in his thing. And they
Yeah.
said, always image conscience. He always had the cigar in his mouth, no matter what. But look at his
Looks like a
tie.
handsome fella.
Yeah.
Look at that hair.
These are the, earlier, like I said, these are the pea shooters. This was a street one. This was Lucky's bike also.
Cool.
That came from Lucky.
I didn't
No.
realize he had so many bikes.
This is the road racer of it. That's the street, and that would be the dirt track,
How about these singles?
The single,
This-
that is 1916. That's one of 2 known to exist.
I would just ask that. They had a single in 16.
It's a they call it the narrow case race. It's a racing motor.
Wow.
And so this, if you can notice the difference, these are tires from back then,
Wow.
and that's the reproduction. You can see the size.
Yeah,
difference,
totally.
Yeah.
like rocks.
I
But
just-
they're on there.
They are solid.
So Harley didn't have factory sponsored racing until they started in 14, and this is a 15. So the old bikes, you would pedal
Yeah,
to start.
yeah.
Well, they left them there, and then they would just lock them up, and then you would push it.
Do you put your feet on the pedals still?
You would just you would
Yeah.
they would, but you couldn't start it. They
Right.
just pushed you to start, and then to start it, you'll notice the linkages have this.
Yeah. So
Lift.
it's the compression.
This is the decompression release.
That's the same
and
thing on
then
my
it
12.
charges the spark also at the same time. So the minute it starts to fire,
It'll
you advance it
Right.
to see how it does the.
Oh, yeah.
Huh.
Multi-purpose.
Yeah.
Have you ridden this? No.
Runs.
Yeah, I'm sure it runs. No doubt. Everything you have, which makes it even cooler, is all of it runs. Is this the oldest one you got?
Yes.
Where's the other one of this?
I don't know where it is. Oh, I'd had it here for a couple of years. It was a friend of mine's, and he ended up selling it. I didn't get it, but it was original.
Did you try? Did you want to get it?
I did.
Yeah, I'm surprised you haven't scouted it out. You scout out stuff.
I chased it. But
Yeah.
I couldn't make the deal.
Somebody's got it. Okay.
Those are the,
Yeah.
Yeah.
that's Dave's spine.
I
is
know, this-
beautiful. That's the sports
yeah,
wear,
primary.
Primary.
Yeah.
Aftermarket
Imperial.
of the day.
Yeah. I had one of these back in the 70s,
Yeah.
and I just bought one this past week.
Mhm.
But somebody else is making them, but beautiful color.
Mm.
I saw it on eBay, and I had to have it.
Mhm. I was missing this piece.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And Bill made that.
Oh,
Oh, that's cool.
Bill Darling.
Yeah. He's quite the machinist.
He is the master.
Yeah.
Certainly is.
How about these two?
This bike raced out of it was called Freedom Center Harley Davidson in Billerica, Mass. And the guy that wrote it was Detroit Mike, and I found that out, but from the guy I got it from, but I've never found a picture of it racing or anything. And it was black when I got it. It's 96 cubic inches.
Yeah.
Wow. That's a
And
big.
so it's a
sports
high gear
style.
only bike. So it has they call slipper clutch, kind of like if you're on your mini bike,
Yeah.
That's how it works.
Huh.
These both have slipper clutches. So this ran in this day, but I liked I call it bass boat blue.
Yeah.
It looks good
Did it come
outside.
with that big drum?
It did. That's the KR
Yeah.
racing.
Right.
It's got the KR, road racing
Yeah.
back brake too.
Yeah.
Well-
And then this is the double engine, which is those are 108-inch shovel head motors. It's called a Cosman frame. And when we got the bike, it was made back into a single engine, but the guy kept all the parts, and so it was a couple of year restoration. So it's all gone back, and the guy that raced that lived in Buffalo, and I had put his name on the tank and sent him a picture of it, and he says, "I can't wait to hear it run." And so he said, he says, "When's it gonna be run?" I said, "A couple of months." And I said, he goes, "That's good," because he goes, "I'm having a hip replacement," and he says, "I'll be ready to go by then." And he had it, and he didn't wake up from anesthesia.
No
Kidding.
way. Jeez.
Wow.
Walter Curio says Lucky sold me 4 bikes for $1,500. He went to school with my mother and my aunt.
Wow.
Imagine that getting 4 Lucky's bikes for even one for $1,500.
Now, Walter lives in New
That's a
York,
good-
right?
In Long Island. I
Yeah.
believe. A super cycle. I think that's the name of his. He goes to all the
Yeah.
swap meets. And,
Yeah.
Yeah, thanks for watching our show all the time, Walter.
That is 7.
Streamlined.
streamliners. This is not the bike that set the record. This was built like 2 blocks from where this guy Dennis Manning built the record holder. Is this picture of this bike right there? So it was built from so he copied him, and he was going to run it, but when he set the record, he's like, well, it's useless to try. So
Eat that.
That is so fast.
Russian drop tank. This was a fuel tank that they would sacrifice
Huh.
in long distance. Part or I call it.
Yeah.
I'm working on those now.
I just gonna say you gotta get those in here.
they're
Well, they got quite a collection
Right.
here. I mean,
Yeah.
it's just, they're in awe, and I mean, you're quite a historian. You know, to know the history and everything that you know about these things is incredible.
a lot of fun.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
very cool. Thank
Yeah.
you very much
Yeah,
for
right.
showing us
Yeah, I
and,
really
and all of our.
appreciate you showing everybody
followers.
this stuff, and yeah, and you know, he restored most of these bikes himself, so you know he didn't send all these out to get restored himself. So
It's kind of cool though. Must be
Yeah.
to do that because you learn more about
Oh,
them
yeah.
and the history.
Yeah,
and-
absolutely.
Chase on the parts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
well, it's all about the chase.
It is
right
about
there.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
love the chase.
I know all about that.
Everybody goes, "What's that?" I said, "That's 40 years down here."
Yep.
Yeah, boy, that's a long time to have
Yeah.
quite the collection for 40 years. That's awesome. Oh, hi. All right, guys. Well, that's our show for today. We'll be back on Monday, and I want to thank Indian Motorcycles and Law Tigers for sponsoring Chopper History and helping us keep motorcycles great. And thank all your comments and everything, but we will on Monday. So make sure you tune back in and share our post and comment and all that good stuff. And
Yeah, and
Yeah.
I mean, if you've got questions, you can ask us on Monday pertaining to today, and you know we can talk more about Dave's collection and all this cool stuff that he has.
all right, guys, I guess we will see you on Monday.
Thanks.